You're listening to No Retreat, hosted by Cheryl Ann, produced by Scott Douglas. Today on No Retreat, our guest is Jason Mikesell, Republican primary candidate for governor of Colorado. Welcome to the program, Jason, and please introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thank you for having me, Cheryl. And, I think in just telling people about me, the first thing I can tell you is that I'm a business owner in Colorado. My wife and I own multiple businesses. We own some restaurants, we own apartments and some commercial real estate. And then the other side of it is people actually know me as a sheriff in Colorado also. So I've got a wide variety of things that I've done and am doing. And I think for the biggest piece to that, and that's where it comes back to understanding what Colorado needs as issues. So I think, Cheryl, too, as a sheriff of Colorado, one of our other biggest concerns is that we have one of the highest crime issues in the United States. We're a third in the nation for sexual assaults on women. We have a bonding system they put into place where everybody's allowed a PR bond now. We have a probation and parole system that is releasing criminals back onto the streets immediately because Colorado doesn't want to show recidivism. So that means somebody can commit a crime multiple times over and they're released right back into the community, which is costing taxpayers more money than I could even imagine at this point. We're allowing criminal illegal aliens to hit the streets, and we're not allowing the federal government to take them from our prisons where they should be taken from. With parole and probation violators being released back on the streets, we're also having a problem in the state that we allow criminal illegal aliens to be released from jails back onto the streets, and then ICE has to pick them up within communities, which is causing more of an issue for citizens at their homes and in communities, whereas they should be releasing them straight from prisons after they've been committed into prison because of the crimes that they have done and been convicted for.
I think that's a great idea. It would alleviate a lot of the stress on your public law enforcement people at the local level, right? Because they have to be on alert when it's happening back out in the street, I would imagine.
Well, and you would also not have the issues that you're seeing in different states right now.
Correct.
Because one of the problems that's happening is doing it on purpose. I'm saying Democrat progressives, they're doing it on purpose to make people have to go into communities to arrest violent criminals that would otherwise be transferred within a safety of a prison system, which would mean that we wouldn't have, or they wouldn't have to go back into communities to arrest people. And I think that's what's creating an extreme issue in the United States right now, and for both parties.
Agreed. I don't think it's a good optic for either one. We have to apprehend those people that we're trying to apprehend. And everyone should want it to happen in the safest manner possible for citizens. And I cannot imagine a safer place to apprehend a criminal than at the jail or prison, wherever they. Some of your experiences as sheriff really inform this, right? That's a role that is, at least where I live, it used to be like the county executive kind of position, only now we have a county mayor where I live. But, and the role of sheriff is more than just a law enforcement officer, right?
It is. A county sheriff in this state, you're actually the fire marshal. So I deal with large-scale fires that happen within communities. So we're used to leading from the front, and that's where I gain a lot of my knowledge about how Colorado runs. Because I've dealt with mine safety issues. I've dealt with fires. I've dealt with, during COVID with pandemics. And we deal at the basic level of government also. So we understand what that basic level of government should be. And that really the role of government is life, health, and safety. And that really we want to see more of that at local levels and not at state levels.
Absolutely. The closer we can get solutions to the actual problem, the less opportunity there is for chaos and fraud, right?
Absolutely. And you see that because in Colorado right now, we have a state government that wants to pull all of funding and they want to pull all the regulations to where the state of Colorado is the one pushing it. where it's really taken away the authority of your local commissioners and sheriffs and just local officials, municipalities. The problem with that is now the people don't have a voice to be able to go in and talk to their local officials about road maintenance, about water issues, about public health, about children. They have to go to the state level. And there's no way you as a parent or you as a citizen get to just walk into a state level meeting and try to sway decisions based on what your experiences are as a business owner or a parent. That's why we've got to get it back from state government and bring it back to local governments to have complete control over those issues.
Of course, it makes much more sense because you've put your finger right on the pulse of the situation. Is that if I, as a citizen, okay, in your fair state, can't go to my local people and address an issue that's affecting me day to day, I'm going to just give up on that issue eventually, right? And that's not necessarily good for the citizens, right? It's much better if you can actually talk to somebody that's at your local level and can actually be interested and responsive.
Yeah, Cheryl, you're absolutely right. And that's what the issue is. If things are done at your local level, it reduces the cost of government as we see it. It also allows people the more speech and ability to actually talk to officials to get things accomplished.
And discussion is how we learn and grow. And if we don't have those opportunities to have those discussions with our elected officials, they don't have the opportunity to learn and grow either.
That's exactly right. And the thing is, in this state, we have elected officials now in government seats that don't want to listen. They want to be able to push agendas without having the citizens have a voice in the matter. I've been up to the Capitol, I don't know how many times, to defend Second Amendment rights, to stop safe injection sites from being put into cities and the state use their funding to put them anywhere near schools or city seats or churches. And what I found was that the state legislative body, as a progressive Democrat side, will not listen to the citizens. You have hundreds of citizens that show up. You have law enforcement organizations that show up. You have organizations that are representing 14,000 law enforcement officers telling the state, no, this isn't a good idea. We shouldn't be doing this in a legislative hearing. And we're being told, it doesn't matter what you think, we know better. And that's the problem when the voice of the people doesn't get to be heard. That's what causes groups to not want to listen to the government. That's a dangerous thing.
It is a dangerous thing. And, we see that all across the country right now. And, we have to get back. I'm 60. So I remember a time when people actually debated ideas and talked about solutions regardless of what party they were. And people listened. They didn't agree. It didn't mean that they had to agree. But people were allowed to have differing opinions and to express them. And it seems like we've kind of stifled that public conversation over the different ways you can approach a problem.
Well, you're right. And we're seeing it even within the Republican Party. I don't know how many times I deal with who's the better Republican, right? And the problem is we've got to get back to where we're all Republicans, or we're all working together with independents, Democrats across the board for logical solutions. Because the biggest problem that we see right now is because nobody is listening to those voices. And until we actually start working together on logical things, because you got to understand, all parties across the board want to have a safe environment to live in. Yes. They want to have a place where parents are the ones that get to make decisions for their children. I believe that. I even talk to Democrats that have that same concern right now. I think there's a push towards a progressive Democrat Party, but we also have a part in our party, in the Republican Party, that is extremely extreme. And I hate to say extremely extreme, but I'm just saying it very extreme. And there's no room for anything that's not that level. And I think that's where we got to get away from. We need the conservatism of the Republican Party But we also need logic across all parties to be able to work together, because right now America is being split by, just a lot of different directions, because no one's having those discussions about where the middle lies and where we can meet and have the same ideas.
Yes, and the truth is it used to be very, very well known that both sides wanted to get to the same place. They just didn't agree about how to get there. And there used to be consensus in America that that's where we were, right? That the differences weren't what we wanted to see in society. The differences were how do we get there, right? Like nobody really wants to see children go hungry, right? I don't care who you are. You don't want that to happen. The differences come in how do you make that not happen? What's your priority? Is it, bringing back good, stable families? Or is it social welfare? There's a wide variety of approaches to every issue. And somewhere in all of that, we can have good, constructive conversations.
Absolutely. And I think that's where I think people want to get back to. Now, you have your dreams, right? You see it on TV, and you see it and hear it in radio, and you know where those people sit. But when you're a family, you should still be able to sit down at a kitchen table and discuss politics and not fear that one's going to be alienated from the other. The biggest thing I've seen as I've ran is that everyone has the same direction they want to get to. We want safe water for our families. We want our water rights in Colorado back. A lot of what's happening now is that a lot of our resources in Colorado are being used to pay for things at a state level that really aren't a need for us. And when I talk about that, I talk about wolves, the relocation of wolves to Colorado. We had wolves coming into Colorado for free, but now we have a government that's actually paying for the wolves. But yet we're losing our food programs that are going to people that are elderly in our communities. We're losing our health care. We're losing our insurance companies. The rising costs of those are going through the roof. We're losing our homes of the elderly because our taxes are rising so quickly they can't afford what they had. That's where we got to get back to normal issues that we should be talking about. We should be working on as a Colorado, not on so many special interest issues that really only give money or needs to smaller groups of Coloradoans, when we're not looking at the broad picture of what Colorado is.
Well, that speaks directly to the need for limited government, right?
It does, right? There is more money in a budget when you limit the amount of government you have. In this state, we've stopped oil and gas. Well, we need oil and gas. Those are good paying jobs for people. We have limited resources on energy right now. We need to be looking at the future with nuclear energies. We had pushed to a green energy direction for wind and solar, which wind and solar may be something that is good. But the problem is when you put all your eggs in that basket and it cannot sustain the demand of what we are in Colorado, and it can't sustain the growth that's getting ready to happen in Colorado, then it's not a viable option by itself. So instead of limiting all the other types of energies throughout Colorado, we need to be looking at all of them and be inclusive of those different business operations so that we can increase the growth of Colorado.
Of course. I mean, that just makes common sense, right? And it seems like, I don't know, Jason, the more people I talk to, the more I get the sense that people really want us to get back to common sense.
Well, you're right. I think they want leadership, because the problem in Colorado is we have not had leadership because we've been under single party rule in this state for too many years. And the problem is that because you have single party rule, nobody is making decisions and nobody's being challenged on decisions. So one of the biggest issues we have is we have a PUC in this state that limits the energy development and that doesn't understand, because of the board members that have been in place by the government or the governor, that is destroying our energy independence. The other side of it, too, is we have CPW boards, or the boards that deal with our wildlife operations in the state. You have people that are hunters on there. They're not fishermen. They really have no role or understanding of the environment in Colorado. if you're a CEO of something, and since I've been a CEO and I understand what it takes to run businesses and develop businesses and grow businesses, you have to look at it from an understanding of how do you deal with that. And when there's failures, you have to make sure that those failures don't continue reoccurring. And that is what's happening in Colorado every day. We have reoccurring failures at every level because there is no leadership that is attempting to get things done in Colorado.
That's just mind-blowing to me. I've spent most of my life in manufacturing, and in manufacturing, OSHA has all kinds of rules, right? And if you have a safety failure, right, you don't get to just move on and hope it won't happen again. You have to develop a corrective action. You always have to have a corrective action. If you have a failure, you must have a corrective action. What corrects this so it won't happen again, or so that it's less likely to happen again? What do you put in place to reduce the incidence of this failure, whatever the failure is, right? And it's mind-blowing to me that you can be in a system where you just see the same failures happening over and over again and nobody taking any corrective action.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't reward failure, right? Well, we've been rewarding failure in this state for many, many years because we keep electing these people. But the problem for us is that we've not brought candidates from the Republican Party stance that are issue-based Republicans. We've been bringing people towards social issues. Every single time on social issues. So if you're going to lose on all these social issues, why not make sure that the candidate understands exactly what's happening in Colorado and can really go after the real things that are affecting people in Colorado that can't put food on their table or can't find a job that's high paying enough to afford their rent or their homes. That's how you get affordable housing back also. You give them the jobs that are needed and develop those types of jobs within the community.
Of course, because once you raise wages, not by raising a minimum wage, but once you raise the opportunity for good, wonderful, livable wages, whether it's through trades, mining, gas, oil, whatever it is, right? Whatever you go to, if you can get those types of good, stable jobs available for the youth in your communities, I mean, you are going to have family growth that's unprecedented.
You're absolutely right. And that's the thing. That's where families start to develop. And I think right now, in Colorado especially, we do have a trend where, we have less young folks that are getting into the trades. So we don't have as many people that can be plumbers or mechanics or electricians or framers, the people that it takes to make our state what it needs to be. We need to be able to give them grants and run that through local counties to make sure kids get to have those job experiences so that we can develop people that can work in the industries. It's just like in manufacturing. If you don't have people that are trained to do the manufacturing jobs, it's really hard to go out and win other contracts to do more work, which sustains a company. And families are the same way.
Absolutely. People aren't going to develop families if they don't have a home to buy to put them in, if they don't have the ability, in most cases, to support that family.
Well, you're right. And here's what's happening in Colorado right now. You have a government candidate, Bennett, on the Democratic side. He wants to increase affordable housing. Well, here's the problem. What he's talking about on his affordable housing plan is basically low-income housing that they're going to use municipal properties and make municipal cities give them the properties at lower costs to develop those. Here's the thing. I know that most of my young cops or most of my young employees don't want to live in low-income housing. They want attainable housing, and there's a difference. We call it affordable housing because that's the buzzword. But really what they're asking for is attainable housing. They're asking for homes in the $260,000 to $360,000 range, which is almost impossible to find in Colorado right now. So to develop that, you have to be able to drive down your building costs so that those young families can actually get into homes and be able to develop those things. And that requires the state of Colorado to start being a producer again in lumber and all the other things that we have so overly regulated that we no longer allow that to be done in Colorado.
Yes, the overregulation of almost every industry, in my opinion, is as important to the national debt and the economy as is our overspending, right? The overregulation drives the economy downwards, makes inflation go skyrocketing, makes things less affordable. It does exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to be. Real responsible regulation makes sure that people have clean water, that they can be safe, right? That they can have food. Yep. That's what real responsible regulation does. We have clean air, we have clean water, we have a clean food supply.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because that's what the form of government is in the United States. It's life, health, and safety. Those are the three pillars that any government should be running, and then allow businesses to develop a lot of the rest. And I'll give you an example. So right now, we're bringing in all of the lumber in Colorado, or most all of it, is bought through our bigger box stores. All of that lumber for housing development is actually being brought in from Canada, because they allow lumber to be developed in those in Canada. So they're the largest exporter of lumber to us. We then receive their lumbers, but we're paying really high tariffs, right? And you have this federal issue over tariffs right now. Well, Colorado used to be an industry leader also in lumber production, because we're sitting on thousands and thousands of acres of forest that need to be mitigated. Well, the problem is you can't mitigate here, because if you do, there's no place to take it. So it costs companies more to cut it, lumber it, and then actually try to mitigate it out of an area to haul it for nothing. So they don't want to do it. So instead, develop your lumber capacity here in small business grants, and let's produce commercial lumber here so that we don't have to pay the high costs and the tariffs and the energy costs of fuels to bring it into Colorado. It would really drop the price of housing in the state of Colorado by driving down those costs. The other side is we are right now dealing with something called a WUI. It's called a Wild Urban Interface. The WUI bill, as it was derived, basically makes it so a lot of municipalities, a lot of cities, a lot of urban areas, rural areas in Colorado have to now use higher building materials that are not burnable. Well, the problem is that those things cost so much money. Your homes jump from a $350,000 home for a 1,200 square foot house in Colorado to now you're in the 650s. So it's unaffordable or unattainable for anyone that is starting out, or even someone that's been in a home for a while, to move up to a different size home. So that's one of the issues that we're facing in Colorado. And the problem with the WUI bill is it's somebody put a map over Colorado saying these are dangerous areas. And then insurance companies look at it and go, well, I can't insure it. Because of the higher cost of what the insurance rating is, we're losing insurance companies on a daily basis, because nobody's taking a leadership to talk to the insurance companies and get them to come back to Colorado to drive down the cost of insurances. That's one of the bigger problems we're dealing with attainable homes and for families keeping homes, because the costs are rising so quickly.
You know, we've identified a lot of really key things. Is there anything else on your top priority list that we have not talked about yet that you want to key in on?
Well, I truly, at the end of the day, leadership is one of the biggest needs of Colorado. And right now, the two top priorities in Colorado are economy and safety. You know, we do have high crime rates. We have a behavioral health issue that's out of control, because really our homeless populations are a behavioral health issue. Right now in Colorado, we are not dealing with our behavioral health issues and our homeless. And a lot of these are based on drug issues also. We have no place to take people in Colorado. That's something we as a state should be dealing with a lot better, being able to place somebody into a home or a state-run hospital and keep them there till we can actually get them the help they need to dry out from drugs, but to also get the mental health care that they need to get back on their feet again, instead of making them the victim of the state. That's one of my bigger concerns also.
Yes, I think that is a challenge that every community is facing. It's not unique just to Colorado, but I think that is all over the U.S. And I'm happy that I think even yet today, or it might have been yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order about behavioral health and also substance use. So these are good times for us to move forward on those issues.
I believe so also.
Yep. Well, as we begin to wrap up today, and thank you, where can residents of Colorado go to connect with you? Where can they go to find out more, volunteer, donate, etc., to be a part of your movement?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Mikesell. It's Mikesell, the number 4, gov.com. So again, it's Mikesell4gov.com. You can reach me on the website there, and then all of our social media is under Mikesell4gov. And if you want, just Google Mikesell4gov, and you'll be able to find all the information about our campaign. And thank you so much, Cheryl, for having me on today.
Oh, thank you for spending time with us. And, we really look forward to maybe hearing more from you in the future.
Absolutely. You can have me on anytime you want to, Cheryl. It'd be my pleasure.
All right. You have a wonderful rest of your day, Mike. Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to No Retreat. Guest Jason Mikesell. And as always, everyone, be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you.